friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have sort of a different type of video than I normally film for my channel. I couldn't sleep one night and I was thinking about my makeup, as I like to do from time to time. And I was thinking to myself about drugstore versus high-end makeup, and I found myself wondering, like, gee, I wonder how much of my collection is high-end versus how much of it is more drugstore based. I would definitely tell you that probably 5 years ago when I was first getting into makeup, I only ever shopped for makeup at Walmart. I've really changed in my preferences and what I shop for and where I shop and all of that stuff. So I sat down at my vanity and looked at all the different categories of makeup that I use on a regular basis, and I essentially determined whether or not my preference was more high-end or drugstore in that makeup category. And the way I determined that was I was looking at the products that were sitting in the drawer and thinking about the past year and just thinking about where is the majority of those purchases. Is it the majority of things being from a high-end price tag, or are the majority of the items more based on a drugstore? And I was actually really curious with the findings. I also thought it would be fun to show you guys some of my favorites from those categories, just to give you more of an idea of why I went drugstore or high-end, or why I feel the majority of my products were from there. I'd also be curious to know, do you think I have more high-end makeup, or do you think I have more drugstore makeup? Some of you may very well already know that if you watched my makeup collection for 2019 at the very start of the year, but I have decluttered. Maybe I purchased some things here or there, so you don't fully know. And I'd also like to know for any of these categories for you, if you tend to be more high-end or if you tend to be more drugstore. But enough yammering, let's go ahead and talk about the categories. I'm gonna go in order of the drawers on my little vanity that I have that I keep everything in, so it may not necessarily make the most sense in a routine way, but it's the way I took my notes and the way I put together my little bucket of makeup that I have. So we're gonna go ahead and start with setting sprays. If you were to look in my drawer right now, you would probably say that I am more drugstore setting spray based, but in reality, when you look at like my projects, when you look at the things that you see me wanting to repurchase or purchasing, I'm definitely gonna go high end on this one. I really love the MAC Prep and Prime. When they came out with these little trios, I think I bought 3 of them and I've been slowly working my way through them. I love the Urban Decay All Nighter. I love Scandinavia. Like, a lot of my favorite setting sprays do come from those higher end price tags. And I also feel like in my experience, I have found that they really do make a difference in my makeup routine. They make a difference in my makeup staying on my face a lot longer. They make sure that everything, you know, doesn't slide around or move around. And I get sweaty. I'm just a sweaty person. It doesn't take very much to get me to start sweating, as attractive as that is. And so this really makes sure that makeup stays. So I feel like it's worthwhile to purchase the high-end stuff that I love. Category number 2 is concealer, and this was super easy. I'm definitely a drugstore girl when it comes to concealer. For like spot correction or covering up blemishes, I'm using the Photo Focus concealer from Wet n Wild in Light Ivory. This I have really no complaints about. And then for my dark circles, or just to help brighten my under eyes, I've been using the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Eraser for dark circles in Fair. I'm satisfied with both of these. Prior to using the Maybelline one, I was using a ColourPop one, which for all intents and purposes, I would definitely consider that drugstore because the price tag is so low. So I tend to just be a girl, find effective concealer products at the drugstore. Category number 3 is foundation, and I was really interested in this. I am actually going to consider this category a draw because I tend to love both drugstore and high-end foundations. If you look back at my project pan for 2019 so far, I've actually panned 2 drugstore foundations. And even though my current drawer is predominantly got high-end foundations in it, I'm really eager to try the Flower Light Illusion foundation that I keep hearing everyone talk about. Like, I really find that I enjoy experimenting with both high-end and low-end. I mean, case in point, I love the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless, which is, I don't know, probably no more than $10 or $12. But I also love, and I'm currently panning my YSL Touche Eclat Radiance Awakening foundation, and I'm pretty sure this thing is like nearly $70, which total opposite end of the spectrum. So I would definitely say I'm pretty even in this one. I don't have too much of one or the other. You're probably going to see me mostly pan high-end foundations for the rest of this year, but it's because I started the year by wanting to work on my drugstore ones. So I'm calling this one a draw, no real clear-cut winner. Now I have setting powders, and I'm willing to bet a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking like, oh, easy peasy, she is definitely a high-end setting powder person. I actually considered myself to be more drugstore. When I look at what I have in my drawer and I look at what I was really using religiously for a long time, they are very much drugstore based. The first one that I have is my e.l.f. under eye setting powder. I've actually repurchased this 3 or 4 different times, and I only stopped using this because I discovered another drugstore based one, which is the Coty Airspun Loose Face Powder. I've actually used a really considerable amount of this, even though it probably doesn't look it because this thing is huge. I was using this to bake with for a while before I decided I didn't like the effect of baking, and it wasn't until I discovered the Laura Geller one that I even had an interest in anything high-end, but I would still consider the fact that these I use a lot more, and I'm definitely probably going to finish up before I purchase the Laura Geller one because I'm quite content with the way that these work on my skin. So despite my love affair with Laura Geller and her translucent setting powder, I definitely think I'm still more of a drugstore girl at heart for this category. All right, let's move on to blush, a category that I freaking love and am hands down a high-end lover of blush. I actually was trying to pull a few favorites and I couldn't just pull a couple, I pulled 4 because there are 4 different high-end ones that I am obsessed with. I would definitely say my blush collection is dominated by Benefit box blushes. I haven't bought really any blush, but I haven't bought a Benefit blush in a while, but I am obsessed with Rockateur from Benefit. Originally, I was using it more as like a winter foundation, which sounds strange to be like, I have a winter foundation, but I was loving the look of it in the winter, but I have actually been using it sort of all year round, and I have managed to, for the first time ever, hit pan on a powder blush. I will not lie, hitting pan on this wasn't the most satisfying because it's just like a clear plastic bottom. I've never seen like the bottom of one of these before, and it's not like a bright shiny pan that pops through and it's like, hello world, like it's just not as like fulfilling as I wanted it to be, but that speaks a lot to this product because I think it's almost impossible for me to ever pan an entire powder blush. I might pull it off with this one, but I've literally had this thing for years. I'm surprised it's still even any good, but I'm still getting good color payoff from it and it doesn't smell funky, so I'm gonna keep plugging away at it. But I also am a lover of Tarte blushes. The Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush. I have 2 of these little minis, but I really love the Partey shade. I think I got this in maybe a birthday gift from Sephora, I want to say, or from Ulta, but this to me is a super like universal flattering shade, and it's just really pretty and it's very long lasting on my skin, so I really like it. Then I discovered Jouer blushes. I got a Jouer mystery box, I want to say in the fall of last year, and in that they had the Flirt blush duo in Kiss Me and Touch Me. I really wasn't sure I was gonna like Touch Me very much because it almost looks like a highlighter, but it doesn't necessarily turn out this way on my cheeks. I love the look of it. I use this one more than I use the Kiss Me shade, but I just really like both of these. I think that they're really beautiful on the cheeks. Again, they're super long lasting, like they're very pigmented, but not so pigmented that you have to be like ever so careful getting just the right amount of product on your brush, which I absolutely hate as a pale lady. So I'm a big fan of this, and I would definitely recommend the blush duos. I'm pretty sure they just launched a mini version of this, so if I were you, I would grab that over the full size because again, who could ever pan a powder blush? The last one that I want to share with you guys that I don't think you can get anymore unless you find it like discount somewhere, but I went through a really hot and heavy phase with this. It is the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani collaboration blush palette. I love the shades in here. All of them are beautiful. All of them perform magnificently on me. I've never tried, aside from this, an Urban Decay blush, so I don't know if all Urban Decay blushes are this fantastic, but I would definitely say it's worth a shot to try them out. So even though you can't get this palette, I feel like their formula is pretty universal all the way around, and I absolutely love the way these look on my skin. I love the color selection of these, and I feel like they work really well for my skin tone, so definitely would recommend this or Urban Decay blushes in general. Category number 6 is bronzer, and you guys know I have been working, or maybe you don't know, but I have been working a lot on the Balm Desert bronzer and blush. I have pretty significant or decent pan happening on this, and I have to say I've been really motivated to want to use this up because it is the most expensive bronzer that I have in my collection that I paid for, and so I wanted to be able to use it up. It's also on the older side, and these products will only last so long, but overall I would consider my bronzer collection to be much more drugstore drugstore based. The three that I'm going to show you all come from e.l.f., which is a really inexpensive brand. For a long time, I was using just this general e.l.f. bronzer in warm. I don't know if they still make this, but it basically has these 4 different shades that you swirl your brush into. I'm actually really shocked I don't have pan on this because I was really digging into it. I really like the look of this product, and I'm not someone who's a big fan of like shimmery bronzers necessarily, but I feel like this looks really nice on my skin tone. I also have the e.l.f. bronzer palette. I'm not sure if they come out with different like skin tone versions of this like they did with their blush palette, but I really love this palette, and I feel like I get a lot of different finishes, which I really like, but I like all the tones in here. And then the last one that I have is my e.l.f. Total Face Palette. This is not exclusively a bronzer, but the bronzer that is in here I really, really adore, and I do like, while we're here, the blushes and highlighter. I think this is a really phenomenal all-in-one face palette. Highlight for me was an easy, no-brainer, high-end category. There are 3 highlighters in my collection from different brands that I am absolutely obsessed with. The first one is from Jouer. I actually bought all of their mini highlights in a Christmas collection a couple of years ago, and one of my favorite shades in there is Rose Quartz. Whenever I'm looking to do like a pinky eye look, I always bring this out as my highlight. I just love the look of this on my skin. I love how it really is very luminous without looking like there's a streak on your face. Like, I'm really a big fan of the Jouer highlight products, and I feel like they are some of the highest quality, and if you can get mini versions of them, even better. A second mini that I'm sure you guys aren't surprised by is Becca. I actually have, I think, 3 or 4 different Becca highlighters. The one that I've gotten the most use out of is Opal. You guys have seen that I'm actually panning parts of this during my Project Pan for 2019. I just think this is the most universal highlight shade for any kind of eye look that I do. This can pair really easily with it. I'm just a big fan of this. I find that it's super long lasting on the skin, and it has a really beautiful finish, so I would highly recommend this. And the last one, I don't think I've really talked a lot about on my channel, and the only reason why I own it is because of a Sephora Favorites like bronze kit that I bought years ago. And the product that I am obsessed with is this Lancome Glow Subtle Silky Cream Highlighter in Glowing Lights shade 6. This is very similar to what I imagine the ColourPop highlighters are like. I've never bought a ColourPop highlighter, but I know that they are packaged very similarly. But this is the shade. You can see I have like a pretty good dip happening in here, but I have not managed to pan this. I don't think that this is a full size, so I can't imagine how someone could ever go through this entire thing. But whenever I do any kind of like gold or bronzy type look, I love to bring this particular shade in. I also think it looks beautiful on my skin tone, but these 3 are my absolute standout favorites. I don't have any other highlighters from Lancome, but I have multiples of Becca and Jouer, so I absolutely had to give this category over to the high-end ladies. Moving on to face primers. I would also consider myself a high-end face primer person. It seems very evident to me that I tend to be much more high-end when it comes to like complexion products. One of my favorites of the moment is definitely this Professional. I have sought out multiple samples of this. I have purchased a full size of it. Most items from this category that you guys have seen me pan are high-end. I just tend to be very drawn to them, wanting to try them, purchasing them. Like, I just enjoy the way that these work over drugstore ones. So I definitely say I'm much more of a high-end primer gal. However, on the flip side, when it comes to eyeshadow primers, I would definitely say I am much more drugstore based. That's really surprising, because probably 3 or 4 years ago, I would have easily been an Urban Decay primer potion gal, but I really have been enjoying a lot of the primers I've used from the drugstore. Case in point, you guys have heard me talk multiple times about wanting to desperately try the CoverGirl or the Milani eyeshadow primers. I'm currently panning a Wet n Wild one. Like, I'm just super into it, and I feel like drugstores have really stepped it up, so you can get the same quality as Urban Decay for a fraction of the price. Another category I love is mascara. However, when I was assessing this category, I thought it was really challenging because I'm somebody who loves to try high-end mascaras. I love to get my hands on deluxe size samples. I love to, on like 21 Days of Ulta, when they have a sale on certain high-end mascaras, I love to get them. But when it comes to shelling out the dough for them when they're full price, I rarely do it. I rarely go out of my way to just experiment and try out a high-end mascara. An example of that would be Too Faced has a brand new high-end mascara out from their line, and I have no interest in going out and buying it. Maybe if it were on sale, I would do that. Yet when it comes to Drugstore and I see that there's a new Drugstore mascara out from Maybelline or Revlon or L'Oreal, I don't question it. I go out and I buy it, and I'm super happy and thrilled to be testing it out. So in the end, I would say that I'm probably gonna call this category a draw because I do purchase high-end mascaras. I'm just much more selective about when I do it and why I do it versus Drugstore. I'm much more amped to buy them and try them out, but I don't find myself being as successful. But there are 3 Drugstore mascaras I wanted to talk to you about. The first one is the Essence Lash Princess. Did not like this when I first bought it, but once I let it dry out a little bit, ooh, it is magical. I love the effect of this on my lashes. You guys also know I am obsessed with the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise Primer. This knocked out of the park any other primers that I've tried in the mascara category. And then I've also repurchased this, which says a lot about a mascara if I actually repurchase it. It's the Maybelline Total Temptation. I'm a huge fan of the way this looks on my lashes, and I think it pairs super well with the L'Oreal primer. I have 2 eyeliner categories, super high maintenance, I know, but originally I wasn't going to include pencil liners, and then I thought it was very fascinating and I wanted to include it because I recognized something. My pencil eyeliners are all high-end, but it's not because I bought them. I have found that my pencil eyeliners, I have amassed a collection of through subscription boxes, through like bonus add-ons that come with like palettes or in like little makeup kits. And so I've come to realize that I feel like subscription services specifically always toss in like high-end pencil liners because it bumps up the price tag of what a box is worth and makes it seem more reasonable or more value for your money because you got a $25 pencil liner in your box. But the reality is, I don't know who genuinely is out there buying all of these high-end liners because the ones that I've tried from the drugstore versus high-end are the same in quality, but 4 that I have sitting in my little collection right now. I've got this one from Lorac, I have one from Marc Jacobs, I've got one from Jouer, and I've got one from Julep. I'm someone who does not consider Julep a drugstore company. Their prices are very high for the types of products that they offer. And so all of these came from different boxes or different kits, but I would definitely consider my pencil liner category much more high-end. And that's also, I think, why I still make an effort to pan products like this because they are worth a certain amount of money. And I will admit, I do get satisfaction out of using up higher priced products. So that's why I still have these kicking around, even though I much prefer felt tip liners. Speaking of felt tip liners, I have never used a high-end felt tip liner that I thought was better or worth the money compared to the drugstore. 2 that I love that I find are always on some kind of sale or always being discounted and just in general are pretty cheap to begin with is the NYX That's the Point Hella Fine liner. Let me show you just how tiny this point is. This gives you all the precision you could ever possibly want when doing a wing, when doing a thin line. I'm someone who struggles when using other types of liners to create like a thin black line on my eyes, but this is foolproof. I absolutely love it. And then the other option that I have is the Physicians Formula Eye Booster 2-in-1 Lash Boosting Serum and Eyeliner in Ultra Black. This is also exceptional. The tip is much bigger, but I really do like the effect of it. I like the color payoff. I like how well this wears. I'm just a big fan of the way these perform, and they are very inexpensive and again, always couponable or on some kind of sale. In like Target, CVS, Ulta, and Walgreens, like somebody, at least one of those 4 people has this on sale every single week. Our final 2 categories are eyeshadow based. I have what I consider quads and palettes to be 2 different categories. I forgot to actually pull any quads because they're just in like a back of a drawer and I haven't touched them very much this past year. But for eyeshadow quads or trios or duos, I would consider myself to be very drugstore based. I amassed most of those in like the early stages of my makeup collection and the early stages of me exploring makeup because I didn't know a lot about palettes. It wasn't truly until YouTube that I learned what an eyeshadow palette was, and I went to Sephora and tried them out and learned more about them. So I would definitely say that for quads, duos, trios, I'm drugstore based, but for actual eyeshadow palettes, I am totally a high-end girl. I'm just absolutely obsessed with high-end palettes. And when I was looking through my eyeshadow collection, it became very clear to me that I have one really dominant dominant brand amongst my eyeshadow palette collection, and that is Lorac. In fact, 6 palettes in my collection come from Lorac. I'm gonna go ahead and show them to you. Some of them you probably already are very familiar with. The first one is my Lorac Mega Pro. I've been panning this thing for nearly 2 years. It's going swell. I also have the Lorac Mega Pro 2, which if you haven't heard me talking about it lately, I've become super infatuated with as of recent. I've also got my first ever Lorac palette, which was the Lorac Pro. I have panned 3 shadows in this and have pan showing on another one. I've tossed around panning this for next year, but I'm not 100% convinced yet that I want to do that. I have a limited edition palette. This was the Afterglow eyeshadow palette that came out in a summer collection a while back. Another limited edition one is the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales palette, which was given to me. It looks like this. And then the last palette actually has some complexion products in it. It is the Refined Romance Eye and Cheek palette, but this is what the palette looks like. So overall, we talked about 14 different categories, and my results are the following. There are 5 that are dominant high-end products, which tend to be more like complexion or powder-based products that I put on my face. Then we have 2 categories that are a draw, that are super equal to each other, but the dominant winner is the Drugstore with 7 categories. It was actually closer than I thought it was going to be. I really thought that I was much more drugstore based, but I guess without realizing it over the years, I've been much more willing and intrigued by high-end brands, and I'm much more willing to shell out the cash for those than I necessarily recognized. So I really enjoyed going through this and looking and learning more about my shopping habits and makeup preferences. Again, I mentioned before, I would love to know your thoughts on this or where you fall with these categories in your own makeup collection, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video real soon. Bye.